Hello and welcome to Your City. I'm your host, Lynne Turner Fitzgerald. Joining me today is Executive Assistant Fire Chief Matt Hoppel. Thank you for being here, Matt. Appreciate you coming on. And there's pretty big news, really, for the fire department, this new ISO rating. Tell me about that.
Yes, we are very excited to announce, and we have made it public, but Insurance Services Office, which is an organization that comes in and does risk assessment and the fire department's capabilities to address the fire danger within a community. Mm-hmm. They come in and rate you on every 5 years or sooner if we request it. And they just did an evaluation on us recently, and the rankings go from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, and we were at a 3, and we got moved down to a 2, which is a first for the city of Billings.
Yeah. A 2?
A 2.
Not very many departments make a 2, do they?
No, about 4% of all. There's about 50,000 fire departments in the U.S. that they do evaluations on, and 4% of those are a 2.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What happened to boost everything to a 2?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the taxpayers. I mean, we just recently got a mill levy. We used the funding from that mill levy, and that had a direct impact on this ISO rating. There's 4 different factors they look at when they come in and do this rating, and the resources that were deployed that came out of the studies that we've done is what put us over the hump to get us to a 2.
Specifically, what resources?
So the 4 things they do, 1, they look at water supply within a community, the ability to deliver water to us to use on fire suppression. Your fire department operations is the biggest piece. It's 50% of the score. So that goes everything from personnel, our trucks, how we deploy our trucks, how many people we have on the job daily, those factors, our training, what we do for training, how many training hours we have every year. Community risk reduction is a 3rd one, so that's our preventative piece. It's a very important piece. We'd rather not respond to the fires and get ahead of it and be proactive. So
does that involve community education?
Yes, it's a multitude of things. So you have community education, you have instances where we identify areas within the community that are at risk, high hazard areas, and focus on those areas, like how we would address those, help those people that may be at that high risk with suggestions, things that make them, don't make it such manpower intensive on us to address the situation should it happen there, having that proactive approach and helping community members address it. Public education in the schools. For a while there, just because of our staffing, we weren't able to get in the schools. Now we're back in the schools. We have a full-fledged public safety team now that goes out and delivers this education. We have a partnership with School District 2.
So what do you tell kids in the schools?
Well, believe it or not, kids can be some of our biggest advocates. They're a sponge.
Well, I remember in school and that was obviously a long time ago, but we used to get little badges or something when the fire department, like sticker badges.
Junior firefighter.
Yeah, do you still do that?
We do.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, kids, they're a sponge, and we work with the school district on their curriculum, and what's important, what ages we need to focus on that are the most effective. But back, I used to be on the public safety team or public education team. We called it the clown team back then, quite a few years ago. But we'd go in the schools, and we actually were credited with a save immediately after one. So we had a situation where a kid had listened to our presentation, gone home, made sure all the smoke detectors were working, and ended up having a fire in their home that night, and the smoke detectors are what woke them up and got them out of the house. So
wow. That
just showed the true value of the program. One life saved is, you can't put a price tag on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah, it was very, very, very impactful to me. But the 4th area they look at is emergency communications. So the fire department, a lot of people don't realize, runs the city-county 911 center. So all law enforcement, fire, emergency resources.
That's under the fire department's purview.
It's under our budget. Yep. So we often have an interlocal agreement with the sheriff's department, the police department, and all of our partners within the community. But that falls under us. So they come in and evaluate how well they're taking calls, how many people we have, how well our communications system is, how our phone lines are, our backup systems, all that. And that was probably the one we almost scored a perfect score on. So we're very proud of that.
Wow. So all of these actions that have boosted the rating to a 2 now could be a benefit to homeowners or anybody with insurance.
Absolutely. It's not a guarantee. We always like to say that, but for the most part, Insurance Services Office started their whole reason for coming together was to give the insurance industry kind of a grading system of how well the fire protection is in a community, because that directly results in how insurable somebody is. So your insurance rates are directly related to what resources you have available to you to suppress a fire, your emergency medical services. All that stuff comes into play when they start seeing what kind of insurance rates are charged in the city or within our fire service area. When I say we can't guarantee that, because some people don't use the ISO rating, but they use their own, but I can say that they use a form of what ISO uses. So distance from fire stations, road miles from fire stations, all that comes into play. So whether they use ISO or not, it's a direct benefit to them to have a higher rating, because they generally, when they ask us the same questions that ISO would ask us, and we can answer them in a manner and hopefully get somebody's insurance rates to improve. The people that see the most benefit with insurance ratings are businesses.
Oh.
Because it's larger structures, more complex. So the more robust fire service that you have, the better for them. And then obviously life hazards within homes, that's very important. So they want to know that we're going to be able to respond in a certain amount of time with the correct amount of resources and mitigate the problem as fast as we can. And it's better for them, and it's better for the taxpayers.
I want to go back to mitigating potentially hazardous areas. And in my mind, I'm thinking an area that has a lot of fuel around it, tires, and I don't know, am I off base here?
No. So, everything, all the city departments work together, code enforcement and everything. Those codes are built the same way. We want to make sure property, vegetation. I mean, we have a lot of development that's within highly vegetated areas. So, urban interface, we call it in the fire service. So we like to go out and help those people. When Reberg Branch first started building, they were right in the middle of some heavy timber, stuff like that, and we went out there and tried to help as much as we could to mitigate that. So that's a form of community risk reduction. And just helping people keep their properties to where if you do have these wildfires, Hawaii just suffered a very catastrophic loss. Yeah. And that was directly related to some weather events, and also just the fire travels from one house to the other, and just some planning, and some of that could have been prevented, and they're learning that now, that that's something they need to look at a little bit further, especially in those areas that are highly prone to the weather events. But we have high winds here all the time, and we could certainly be in that same situation if we weren't highly proactive when it comes to community risk reduction.
Well, when a developer decides they're going to put together a subdivision, do they come to the fire department first, or do they ask your input?
Yeah, there's a process. So they go through the building department, the fire department. So we look at all subdivision submittals, and anybody that's going to build a subdivision within the city limits. It does come across our fire marshal's office desk. They do the plan review on that, and they look at the fire code. They enforce the fire code piece. The building department enforces the building code. But we're looking at things such as access. We want to make sure that we can get our fire trucks in there. Right. We have very large trucks, and they're only getting bigger. So we want to make sure we have access to get in there. We have a certain amount of footage to get to the front door, certain distance from water supplies, your fire hydrants, your emergency egress. It's a very important one that some people don't think about. We need to have more than one way into that subdivision, just like a house. We need more than one way out.
Oh, okay.
So we want to know that should we suffer a catastrophic event like that, we have a way to get out of it. So, emergency egress is important, emergency exits, all that stuff comes into play. But yeah, we look at every subdivision all the way down to addressing, critical. I mean, it's important that somebody has an address on their house.
Yeah.
For a while there, we did have a scam in the community where somebody was painting it on the curbs down below, which was great for us, but it wasn't something that we require.
Why was that a scam?
It was somebody that would come in and was representing themselves as the fire department, saying that they needed to do it. but it was short-lived. It wasn't a, but it was able to get that information out there that please keep your house numbers updated because middle of the night, yeah, we do have mapping. We have GIS mapping, so we're able to see addresses on a map. But when we pull up, we just want to make sure that we're at the right house because in some situations we have to force entry on a medical call. We don't want to be forcing entry on the wrong property.
Yeah.
It's a good practice to get into. You'd be surprised how many people don't have their residences addressed.
Really?
Yep. Or hard to see. So it's aesthetics.
Yeah.
You get you want your house to look pleasing from the street, have that curb appeal, and sometimes when you have letters that contrast the house, it's like it's kind of weird arguments we get into sometimes, but it's important.
Well, now, as an individual homeowner, what should I try to do to mitigate, say, flammables around my house?
The vegetation is the biggest thing. Keep your vegetation trimmed. I mean, not so much a concern like in our city limits, but we have a lot of trees. I'm looking at the picture behind you. We have a lot of trees.
Yep.
Keeping your trees trimmed. I mean, when you have trees that are banking down over the roof, you have a lot of the duff that falls from the trees that falls onto the roof. We keep your roofs clean, keep your rain gutters clean, keep that clearance around your house. You can still have bushes, stuff like that, but keep them neat, keep the garbage out of them. Keep your keep your lawn watered. Don't have dry grass. That's like fuel. It's like gasoline when it's dry. So, keep
Well, we
things
have the
watered.
potential this summer of some pretty high fire risk, don't we?
Absolutely. We're a little worried. Just the precipitation that we're getting. You never can tell until it comes. But with the lack of snowpack in the mountains, because that's what we rely on for water, we're hoping that it improves in the spring a little bit and we get a little bit more precipitation because we always worry about that. We work with the Department of Natural Resources on their predictions and we upstaff where we need to. So when we get what we call a red flag warning, we make sure that we stay ahead of that and we know that, okay, it's a bad day. Something could happen today. So we actually upstaff and we have a good agreement with them to make sure that we're prepared, and it's all goes back to this ISO rating we were talking about in the beginning.
So how do you communicate that to the public if it's a red flag day?
So it's put out. The Yellowstone County DES office is actually who puts that out. But we try. It goes up on our website. We push it out through the media as much as we can. So we do send out a media release.
In other words, don't ignite any fireworks today?
Yeah. So there's rules. I mean, once you get into those different levels, and I can't cite them specifically, but there are certain restrictions that come into play. You can't smoke outside. You can't weld. You can't. Any open flame outside. So the more the community can stay ahead of that and watch that, we have a lot of agriculture around here and they're usually good about policing that, but once in a while we'll get a straggler that doesn't and we end up with a situation. So we just ask the public to stay informed.
How large is the fire department now?
So right now we have 7 stations. We're going to be opening an 8th. It won't have a fire truck in it, but it'll have a mobile response team that I was going to talk about here in a little bit. But we have eight stations. We have 8 staffed units right now because we have 2 units that are staffed out of Station 1, a truck company and an engine company. And then we also have 2 additional what we call mobile response teams that are staffed. So our staffing levels have gone up, which played right into the ISO rating.
Oh, good.
The more people that you have available, should any incident happen in the city that can respond on what we call a first alarm, like say we have a call come in, the more people you have on the roster, the more points you get on the ISO rating.
Sure, okay. Now what about inside an individual home? I hate to admit this, but I have a fire extinguisher in a box.
Fire extinguishers can be great. In any situation, business, home, whatever it be, take it out of the box, make sure.
Good first step.
Yep, good first step.
I honestly don't think I would know how to operate it.
Yeah, so very simple, and we do offer, there's different places in the community that offer us to say fire extinguisher services do offer that training, but it's very simple. You can reach out, we have some flyers, I can go back to my fire marshal days, and it's pass, you just remember pass. Pull the pin out, aim, squeeze the trigger and sweep. towards the fire. So if you just remember that PASS acronym.
I'll drop by.
All right.
I'll drop by.
But mount it towards your exits. We don't want people going in to further in the fire to find their fire extinguisher. We like to keep them near exits because that's where you should be going should you have a fire. Fire extinguishers are for incipient, what we call incipient stage fires, and that's where they just started. They're not going to put out a whole room and contents fire that's going, so you're better just to get out of the house, make sure everybody's safe, and accountability is critical. So when the fire department shows up, you meet the fire truck and you say that everybody that lives in your home's out of your home, because we go into an entirely different operation if we can't confirm that, and it's a much higher risk that we take because we have life safety at risk. It's not just property conservation.
Okay. Let's talk about the 911 center or the calls. What do you want people to know about when to call 911 and when not to?
Well, everybody's emergency is different, so we're not going to dictate, what's an emergency to you is not an emergency to me or so forth. But any situation that you need our services, we have no problem with you calling 911. If it's an abuse situation that you shouldn't be calling, they'll probably let you know to call the non-emergency number when you call, like it was just in question. We're never going to question that piece. But there are some abusers of the system that call continuously for things that aren't even related to us. So if it's a non-emergent situation, it's something that it's not critical that we show up in 4 or 5 minutes, that's usually the ticket that, okay, maybe this is something that can be addressed today. If that's the situation, the 657-8200 number gets you to that. Now, it's going to be the same call taker, but it's going to be a different level of response to you, questions that are being asked and so forth. So even if you call the non-emergent number and they think it's emergent, they're going to switch over to that mode anyway and go down that route.
Well, now, a prank 911 call, though, has consequences, doesn't it?
That's a whole different, that's negligence.
Yeah.
That's gross negligence when people do that. So it's actually a criminal offense to do that. To call in a fake call or just a prank call, whatever you call it, you can be charged with that because that could be critical. You do that, you call in, and all of a sudden, especially in larger establishments like schools, pull the fire alarm on the wall, and we send all our resources, and then we have a true situation where somebody needed us and all our resources
You're not there,
are there.
yeah.
We're not so concerned about responding and checking into the situation, but it takes away, you got to understand, we get a perfect ISO rating because we have our fire stations where they need to be, but that's making sure those fire trucks stay in those stations as much as they can to be able to respond in those areas to protect the areas that they protect.
Well, do you respond to calls other than fires?
Absolutely. So we respond to pretty much any 911 call outside of a criminal nature. So any 911 call that comes in, every one of our fire trucks has an emergency medical technician on it at minimum. We have a lot of paramedics on the job now, which is a huge enhancement. But yeah, we respond to all 911 medical calls, rescues, mutual aid calls with other fire partners in our community or in our jurisdiction, I should say. So we have mutual aid agreements with areas outside of our jurisdiction to where we help them, they help us. But yeah, it's just we're kind of we're no longer a fire department. Every one of our trucks says fire department. That's just it's a history thing, but really we're an all hazards department. We like to
all
call
hazards.
It all hazards. So
I remember the term first responders.
Yep.
Is that still used?
Yeah. So first responders was more of the real basic medical aid stuff like where they show up kind of just maybe in their personal car, whatever it be, a long time ago. They're the first ones on scene, but you still have a contingent of fire apparatus coming, so they just initially out the door. And we didn't have EMTs. We called them first responders because it was just their level of medical training.
Okay.
But the all hazards thing is, and some people ask, it's like, why do we keep going through mill levies and asking for more resources? Well, so what has changed? And it's like, well, it's the piece that we kind of pick up what anybody else doesn't do. So we've always had a river. I'll just give an example. We've always had a river, and it's like, well, why all of a sudden are you doing all these river rescues? Why did you get into that business? And it's like the river's always been there. People have always recreated on it. and you didn't always used to go to the river, and it's like, we did, but it was more for recovery.
Oh.
Now we want to be able to be a resource. People recreate on our rivers. If we have people that get into trouble, we want to have the means to get on the river.
I didn't realize the fire department did that. I thought it was Yellowstone County.
Yeah, so Yellowstone County is responsible for all search and rescue
Okay.
situations, but we just kind of make that system more robust by having the capability ourselves too, because it falls within our jurisdiction too. We have some personal rescue watercraft that we get on the river with, and we also get on their boat with them and assist, because we have the medical part of that.
You guys really are everywhere, aren't you?
We are. We're up on the
From
rims.
the river to the rims.
Now we're flying drones, and we assist law enforcement with that.
What are you doing with drones?
So through the Department of Homeland Security, our regional hazmat teams, which are 6 of them throughout the state, applied for a grant to establish a drone program within each of these regional jurisdictions, and Billings being one of them. And we've got a pretty fancy drone that we can get out, and it's more for reconnaissance. It helps with rescues because we can get out, and if you get on YouTube, you can watch an actual rescue we did with our drone, and it has the drone footage, and it shows you how valuable it is to have infrared. Rather than putting a helicopter in the sky and that life safety, that risk you're having with that, we're able to deploy a drone very quickly.
Yeah.
We have created a great partnership with the police department, because they have a drone team too, to where if they're heavily involved with something, we'll go help with the drone piece of it, or vice versa. And we have pilots, certified pilots on both sides, and it's a pretty extensive process to go to be a certified pilot, and have follow all the FAA rules. We follow all of them.
Yeah.
So it's been a great program. We've had some instrumental people on our job that have enacted that, and it was a lot of work to go through to
Technology.
it's
You gotta
amazing.
love it, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the new or the planned fire station for the far west end.
Yes.
It's probably not so far anymore, is it? That west end is just exploding.
Yeah, it's always been in the plans. We still don't have the funding piece of it. We do have the plan for it. We know what it's going to cost. It's probably going to be an asset we look at in the future, but it's inevitable. If you look at the west end and just drive the west end and drive all the way out to 72nd Street and see the subdivisions that are going in, it's just a matter of time. And as the city expands out, we cannot forget about public safety and being able to deliver those services for both law enforcement and the fire side. Annexation is great, but let's just make sure that we can still deliver the level of service that we deliver to everybody else.
And they will expect those services.
Yeah, they do. So, kind of the old adage, you put a fire station in, you put a school in, you get growth. And, we like growth. When those two entities come in, it just shows how critical they are for people to live. It's just a quality of life to know that you have that available to you. You have a school district available to you, and you have public safety available to you. It's very important.
Where's the planned location?
So right now we're hoping that it'll go, there's a new reservoir obviously going in on the west end, and the northeast corner of Hesper and 48th Street West is where our proposed location would be.
Okay.
And the most recent study that was done by CPSM recommended that location for that 9th station. And we're going to make the best out of it. We're looking at it from every approach. So we don't want the community just to benefit out of a fire station. So it's probably going to be a multi-use building to where Public Works can use it. Best bang for the buck. Use multi-use, and we want to be as responsible with taxpayers' dollars as we can. So we're always looking at alternatives to make it more affordable.
Well, in a subdivision, and I'm not when the growth happens, new subdivisions come. Aren't there dollars in place that reflect back to supporting city services?
There are. So obviously, when you annex a piece of property in, there is a tax system in place that we tax for public safety. We tax for all these different entities. The thing we don't want to do is get ahead of that, though. We want to be proactive. So we don't want to build the subdivision and then build the fire station. We want to try to plan accordingly to, if we're going to start annexing in these properties, let's prepare for that.
Right.
And then it's a no-brainer. You have those systems in place. The first thing we want to do is tax the system, build all this, and then all of a sudden we have a bunch of units heading out of our area that we've planned around in our strategic plan, and they're not available to the people that are currently paying taxes in that system. So
Right.
it's sometimes a hard rubric to
Right.
work around.
Well, in the last couple of minutes that we have, this has gone pretty fast. You are in a recruitment phase?
Yes.
Okay.
So every year, and this leads right into, I talked earlier about, the personnel piece.
Right.
We're very busy, so we're seeing, in years past, turnover has been very low. So, you spent a 40-year career in the fire service. With the call volume that we're having, the 20,000 calls a year, we're seeing people serve shorter time, so we're seeing more turnover. So we're trying to stay ahead of growth on one,
Sure.
and then retention and retirements, all that piece. So every year we formed a Montana Firefighter Testing Consortium, and that consists of all the career and combination fire departments in the state got together and said, if we're going to require a physical test to become a firefighter, let's do it at one location that all these departments to benefit from. So they don't have to go to Bozeman, Great Falls, Missoula, Billings, and test at all those different locations. Let's make it as easy as possible from a recruiting standpoint, because the fire service is no different than anybody else. We're suffering
Sure.
looking for people.
Right.
We never thought we'd have that problem, but it's there. So Billings is the site now, so we kind of move it around the state. It's been Great Falls for many years, and we are able to bring it into Billings. Metro Park has been very supportive of us using their facilities for that testing. And we have some testing coming up. So registration closes on April 17th for a test that we're conducting on April 22nd and 23rd.
Okay.
It's a candidate physical ability test that they go through. It's a standardized test that's been around for 20-some years. It was vetted to be job specific to what we do. If you have any questions about it, what the test is, you can go to the website. If you go to the city's website, the fire department website, there is a link on there that takes you to
Good.
the Montana Fire Testing Consortium.
Men and women, right?
Men and women.
Very good.
Absolutely.
All
And
right.
we're very proud to say that we have been very successful in that endeavor.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
It was informative, to say the least.
Anytime we can get the information out to the public, public education is critical.
Good. All right. Well, thanks again, Matt.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Your City. We'll see you next time.